In this video, traders, we're going to look at the difference between a simple moving average and exponential moving average, but more importantly, when we should use one over the other. Stay tuned. Hey guys, warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining me. All right, so I have an account here. We put some money in it, just playing around with it, getting used to some of the functions and things. And one of the things I kind of thought about, I was playing around with with some of the indicators and what have you, was kind of the simple moving average to exponential moving average debate. This has been going on for ages. You're going to get people sitting in one camp, people sitting in the other, and generally my approach to it is it doesn't matter too much. But then actually, when you look at some charts, it does matter. And there are some circumstances where it really matters. So let's put up a simple moving average and go through a couple of different options. So we'll go to indicators here, put trend on, we'll put a simple moving average. I'm going to just show you a 20 to start off with, and we'll leave that as blue. And then I'm going to put in an exponential here. So we're going to trend, we're going to exponential moving average, and I'm going to set it as 20. I'm going to make this one red and keep that kind of standardized throughout. So if you can see on a 20 period, we don't have that much difference majority of the time. If you look in this current scenario, like I say, I've got a daily chart of the DAX up here. I'm in dark mode, by the way, in C-Trade, which is a nice little addition you can flip quite easily. And they're pretty much the same. You know, you've got a little bit of differences, but if you're worrying about the finer, really minute differences, you're worrying about the wrong thing. If you're buying a pullback to a 20 period after a drive, this kind of thing here, let's get the cursor on, after a crosshair, sorry, after a drive, you know, swings and roundabouts whether you're using SMA or EMA. Now, just to kind of recap, an exponential moving average adds more weight. I'm not going to go into the intricacies of the formula. Go and check it out on Google if you're interested in geeking out on that. I have done, and it's kind of really pretty interesting, but it just cements really the fact that actually it takes more weight on current price. So exponential adds more weighting, if you like, to current price. Simple just literally takes an average. You've got 20 period, 20 day on the closing price, 20 closing prices divided by 20. There's a simple result, and it plots it in a line format and adds to the plot as it goes to the next day. Very, very simple. Exponential adds a little bit more weight to current price. And so if you believe that current price has more weight, and I think it does in certain circumstances for sure, then maybe an exponential is what you want to use. Now, in this example of a 20 period, we don't get much variation. We do when we get in this extreme scenario where the coronavirus lows here, as I'm calling them, and we were ripping up 1,500 points in a couple of days. On the DAX, that's a lot. We're getting a reasonable distance between the SMA and the EMA. But don't forget, that's a rare scenario, guys. You know, if you go back and you look, let me just get the arrow back on. If you go back and look, in the majority of the time throughout, you know, all of this period that I'm scrolling back for, very, very, very in line, not much in it. And you can almost argue that actually, you know what, normal conditions, it makes no difference. And that's my philosophy, really. I don't think there's much difference. If you're using moving average to get involved in the first pullback type trade, EMA, SMA, doesn't make any odds. However, now when you start to go out on a longer time frame, or are you trying to make the moving average longer, 100 period, 200 period, you start to see some differences. So let's go in here into objects list, indicators, look at the simple moving average, and let's change it to 200 period. And let's do the same with the exponential moving average. Exponential moving average, 200 period, reminding the exponentials in red. Now see how much wider we get under certain circumstances. So if you look, and it actually happens quite a lot of the time, because when you go back and when you look at scrolling back, you can see how much wider things get in comparison to price. You know, this is a width now of 1,000 points. Obviously it's narrowing now because after 200 days we've kind of gone to a situation where it's stagnated a bit for the kind of front part of the calculation, if you like, and so that affects the calculation as well. So when you are looking at a wider time frame or going out, you need to be a little bit mindful. Let's bring it to 100, because I think maybe 100, that's probably what a lot of swing traders like to look at, like to use. And the objects list, very easy to change it here, by the way, guys. You just go in and punch in what you want. So and it's even more exaggerated in 100 just because of the nature of the chart. And you can see here, look, how simple moving averages caught up so quickly, but the exponential moving average, the other way around, sorry, you can see how the difference is now huge in many, many more scenarios. So if we scroll back and scroll back and scroll back, you know, we see kind of normal market conditions where the distance becomes a little bit wider. And then when it coming back to test it, you go, right, okay, we need to decide what we're going to use. So what's the best way to use this? What I think is the kind of better way to use this? And let's just go back onto the object list. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker. The exponential here. Let's just make this a tiny bit thicker, just so I can see it clearly. So the exponential, obviously catching up on price a lot more. We have this scenario where you can choose how to trade it. If you want to be more aggressive and you want to get into the trade, then use the exponential, because the exponential is going to trigger you earlier, whether that's a price crossing the exponential moving average, or whether that's a tag and a retrace back, you're going to get an earlier trigger. But the flip side of that is you might take more heat as the market rotates back a little bit more. So if you're in a scenario where, okay, I want to get on board this trend, I want to take the trigger, you can split up your order into exponential and simple. So you put both on the chart, you see if there's a big spread between the two, let's say this scenario here, and you go, right, I need to plan this and I'm going to split my order up between the exponential and the simple, assuming you're using it, by the way, as an entry criteria. So I'm going to split my order up, I'm going to add a scale on the first batch. Let's say if you're spread based, let's say you want to do £10 a point, you can do one and then maybe do another one, or you start off with a 2 and then a 1 and then a 1 all the way up to 10, and you're adding basically in this gap here. So while this is got a little drawing pen out here, nice little feature, in this little gap here, you're adding to the position. So say now the DAX decides to come back and you wanted to trade it, you know, you'd be adding from here all the way to here and using both of those as a guide. And then when the simple finally catches up to the exponential, you can go, right, okay, well, this looks like now the trade is running in my favor, because that's more than likely what's going to happen unless you're stagnating sideways. Okay, now when we come and we're using you know, whatever price target the highs, and come all in or all out. So you can either use it as a reference to get in, scaling in between the two, or you can say, actually, when the simple exponential catches up in this sort of scenario here, I might also assume or think that actually price is now a little bit more stretched, because we've been so wide apart here, now we've gone so wide apart here. Maybe this is a trigger for me to just relax a bit. The market needs to stagnate. Of course, it just sits there and goes in a range bound condition. So if you think about, I've got covered a couple of different things there by the way, guys, but if you think about what it's actually telling you when the exponential is further away from the simple, and if you think about what it means when the market pulls back to it, you can use both of them. So in extreme circumstances, if you want to get extra aggressive, you can use the exponential. If you want to really wait for it to unwind a little bit softer, your simple's the one to use, or the hybrid model as we discussed, scaling into the trade between the exponential and the simple. Now, there's only going to be under certain circumstances, like this aggressive coronavirus hammer and rebound. You're going to get it on earnings if you're trading specific stocks. You might get it on all inventories if you're trading on a short-term basis, non-farm payrolls. These kind of erratic, volatile conditions will see a difference in exponential and simple, and you can toggle between the two depending on where price is, depending on how aggressive you want to be, and depending if you want to implement that kind of scaling strategy. So being aware of what each moving average is doing, understanding when they're pretty much the same, like if they're using a 5 or a 20 or a 10, they're going to be pretty much the same. They might spread a little bit, but then they're going to come back in pretty quickly. When you're using a longer moving average, then they go out of sync for quite a while, and understanding how to use them, the relationship between them and price, could help you either get into a trade that you might have missed, or just make you step back a little bit and go, the exponential is really throttling up to the price. Let me go back and use a simple and just rotate off that and try to work that as an order entry trigger rather than the earlier exponential. All right, guys, take care. See you next one. Bye-bye.